I'm going to give it a few minutes for people to get back in. That's a different flash goal that they have. This flash goal is for 3 hand hearts. And we have 2 of them. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. So we have 14 minutes to get 1 more hand heart. I'm still new to the flash goal thing. I need to remember to look it up. About 2.5 more minutes and then we'll resume. Thank you so much, Sugar. We achieved 2 flash goals in 1 day, guys. That's huge. Thank you so much. Aaron? Sounds like my husband's in there. 1 more minute, guys. If you guys know anybody that was in here before that would want to invite back, can you please share it out? I would appreciate it. Just because people have different opinions doesn't mean people need to get reported because somebody else has a different opinion. Yeah, if you guys could tap this side of the screen here, greatly appreciate that too. Just gonna give it another minute, guys. We've got about 50 people we're waiting on. It's really creeping me out that he's not closing his eyes for anything. Aaron? I swear I hear my husband on the other side of that door. I don't know how. See, I just moved my arm like this, and then he jumped. That's why I think he was asleep with his eyes open. All right, shall we continue?
At 12:31:56 and 12:32:16, does the data show that is the time that the phone was moving?
At what time, sorry?
12:31:56, 12:32:16.
He just did, thank you.
I'm sorry, the rest of the question was...
Thank you.
Does that demonstrate movement of the phone at that time?
Yes, it did.
You shared that you can't tell the direction or the distance of steps.
I think so.
If I'm sorry. No, please. Pardon me.
1 second, guys. Yes, he's good.
If that phone moved from the flagpole in a straight line away from the flagpole, in a straight line away from the flagpole,
Thank you,
like for
Lucy.
example towards the house, wouldn't it have to move again before 6:04 to get back to the flagpole?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow it.
I would presume so.
Are you asking me to strike that, Mr.
Yes, Your
Leslie?
Honor.
I'm going to strike that.
Does health data
I want to
register when
take
a
this
phone
off
moves?
of him.
It does.
Thank you, LT.
I'll ask you some more detailed questions about your
I think he's
research into a phone that's been attributed to Jennifer McCabe. You looked at one piece of your report on the screen, and that was a phone call register.
Yes.
It's a
Can
really
you turn to
good
that phone call
question.
register, please?
What are we doing with the slide that's up there, Mr. Brennan?
I would like to change it to the phone call register if possible.
Oh, it's not me.
I think I'm going to take his cone off.
I believe it's Exhibit 42. Do you have the report that you could put on the screen regarding
Oh, I don't
phone call
have.
register?
I don't have this one that was shared as
Okay.
Exhibit 42.
This is now marked as Exhibit 42. In the phone call register, you noted that there was a call at
Thank you,
12:14:36.
Rhonda.
Yes.
Have you found it? Is that you?
This is not me. No.
Oh,
I think it's Ms. Gilman.
thank you, Ms. Gilman. Could you enlarge that, please?
Which portion of it?
Up the top part. The first 4 or 5 calls. Thank you.
Mama's going to get scissors.
And we need
Hold on.
it larger, Ms. Gilman, please.
Can you bring me the scissors? I want to cut this off of him. I need the scissors so I can cut this or remove it. He's traumatized. I'm watching him closely.
Why don't you just take it off?
I have to cut it. It says cut. Mama,
Alright,
take
that's
it
better,
off,
thank you.
baby.
On examination, you read that at 12:14:36, there was a phone call incoming
Yes.
that appeared to be from Jennifer McCabe.
Correct.
At 12:14:36, the location information is the John O'Keefe's cell phone at Fairview by that point?
Objection, Your Honor.
So the question, is it?
Yes, is it?
No.
And then at 12:18:47, there's another call, and again from Jen McCabe.
That's an outgoing call to Jen McCabe.
It's an outgoing call to Jennifer McCabe.
Yes.
12:18:47, the location
Mama's gonna get it
information.
off, don't worry.
Does that place
Gonna get
Mr.
it,
O'Keefe's cell
I
phone
promise.
at Fairview?
No, it does not.
Then at 12:29:44, there's an 8-second call that you said you believe is answered. Do you know if there was any conversation in that call?
No way to know if there's any conversation.
And at 12:29:44, does the location information place John O'Keefe's cell phone somewhere
It does at Fairview Road.
at the flagpole?
Yes.
Your Honor.
I'll strike that.
Now, there is not a call. Well, let me ask you the next call. What time is the next call?
33 minutes and 35 seconds after midnight.
And who's that call from?
From Karen Reed.
Is that before or after John O'Keefe's health data stops?
After.
Mama gonna get it, it's okay.
At 12:37, you offered us that the cell phone
Okay, I
battery's
promise.
temperature
I have to wait
is
a second.
decreasing.
Yes.
How many calls have been made from the defendant to John O'Keefe by the time that cell phone battery starts dropping in temperature?
It's okay, baby, I promise.
7.
I want to turn now to some questions about your analysis of Ms. McCabe's phone. You were asked about hash values, a way of trying to confirm the integrity of the data on a extraction.
Yes.
When forensic analysts look at phones, do you sometimes get to actually see the phone?
Yes.
Do you sometimes have to use an extraction, a copy of the phone?
Yes.
Is it important to try to look and research or search the item to determine whether or not there's been any tampering?
Yes.
You were asked if hash values is one way to do that.
I was.
And you were shown or read part of your report about hash values.
Yes.
There's a second part to that, isn't there?
There is.
You didn't get a chance to share the second part, did you?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
In this case, there
See
was
you
a hash
that way.
value, wasn't there?
There was.
Now, just so we can understand simply, how is a hash value created during the extraction process? What does that mean in very, very simple terms?
Yep. At the end of the extraction, an algorithm is run on every piece of, every byte of data within the extraction, and it comes out with a value at the end. The idea is that if any of that data ever changes, be it through user interaction or through corruption of data in how it was stored, then that value will change at the end.
You mentioned Gray Key. Is that a software, hardware that makes the copy of the phone?
It's a piece of hardware and includes software.
How commonly is Gray Key used in the industry?
It's very common.
Did I hear you say that with Gray Key, the hash value is never authenticated?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained is default.
Does Gray Key authenticate the hash value?
The hash value is placed inside a PDF, which is not signed.
And is that common or typical in the industry?
That is the way that Gray Key do it.
Was there anything anomaly or untoward or different about the way this one was done?
No.
Did the
Maybe it's
hash
just taking
value
a while.
from the Gray Key extraction match the hash value?
It did.
Anything irregular whatsoever about it?
No, not that I could see.
Now, you don't just read software programs when they spit out reports, do you?
No.
As an analyst, as one of the leaders of Celebrite, do you have a history of being a researcher?
Yes, I do.
A history of study?
Yes.
Have you written reports and papers for people to learn?
I've written multiple blogs, done multiple presentations, webinars. Some of my blog posts have become peer-reviewed articles.
Okay. Is it sufficient to simply look at a report that is generated by Celebrite or Axiom or any other service and make conclusions just on the report?
I don't believe it is, no.
Why do you think that's imprudent?
Sorry?
Why do you think that is not prudent to simply rely on a report?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow him to answer.
The tools are very good at surfacing data, but I believe it's up to the examiner to understand what that data means and to provide context to the information which the tool itself can't give.
I know,
And when
babe,
you
I
were
know.
considering the hash value and determining whether or not you thought there was anything wrong with the data, aside from the hash value, how do you do that?
How do I do
How
what?
do you make a determination whether or not this has integrity, the data hasn't been tampered with, so to speak?
Okay. So, notwithstanding the hash value, I've been looking for issues with the data that don't make sense. In this particular case, there was lots of data points that all
I think Daddy forgot about us.
appeared to work together. Like you would see one artifact change in one database and an artifact would change somewhere else. And it all just made perfect sense in how it was functioning. That kind of leads you to believe that it's not been tampered with, or the person tampering with it did an exceptional job to be able to cover all of these different tracks and make it undetectable.
Did you try to summarize that perspective in the part of the report that wasn't read to you on examination?
It's okay.
I did.
honey. Today.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty if there was any data integrity issues in the information you reviewed?
I don't believe there was any.
Hold on.
It was characterized on examination. There was a dispute about the time origin of the search housed on the dying code. Do you remember being asked the question about a dispute?
Yes.
Have you, in your studies and in your position, is there any viable dispute in the forensic data scientific community about that issue?
I don't believe there is any more.
Now, you got involved in this case because you received a complaint from a consumer.
I received a question from a consumer, yes.
And you attempted to resolve that?
Correct.
Hold on,
Stay
baby.
just.
Other than that source, have you received any information, feedback, opinions that would make this issue in any way a dispute?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll allow that.
I'm sorry, could you rephrase the question?
Other than that one person, that one consumer, have you received any information in the forensic community which you're part of? Any data, any information that would suggest that your conclusions are in dispute?
Yeah, I received a very similar question from an examiner in Europe. Fairly similar circumstances with a case and with a timestamp that didn't make sense, that was originating from the same database. I applied the same logic and theory to his question, and he confirmed it solved the issue for him. It all made sense then.
And since then, has in your world, academic and research world, forensic data science, other than the person who originally raised the question, has there been any dispute brought to you by anybody about your conclusions about when this search actually happened?
Not one.
No.
Hold
If
still.
anything, I've heard people who have confirmed the research that I did.
Do you know Jessica Hyde?
I do.
Is she well known in the forensic community?
She is.
It's okay. It's just Daddy. Finally, come on with the scissors.
You were asked
I
questions
found
about
them.
your law enforcement
Yes,
background and the
I
fact
have.
that Celebrate is
It was in
used
there.
as a forensic tool
No,
oftentimes
not
by
in
law
there.
enforcement.
Yes.
Did you go into your company's software and change it to accommodate law enforcement?
No.
They're not
Definitely
in
not.
there.
Would you ever do such a thing?
No.
Why wouldn't you do something like that?
Aside from being unethical to change the data in that way, this is an artifact that is easily validated by any examiner. And if I was to tamper it for the purposes of changing the outcome of the case, it would be detected by all of our customers immediately and would destroy the reputation of Cellbrite, which I've got no intention of doing.
Before a prior proceeding, the printout from the software, when it was showing the timestamp of the Safari search, was it labeled something in particular before?
The Cellbrite search
Yes.
was labeled last visited time.
Last what?
Last visited time.
Come here.
And when it was labeled last visited time, did it show 227 on the report?
It did.
Cellbrite,
Okay.
after research and consideration,
Okay now.
removed that label?
We removed the timestamp when we determined that it was not relevant to the last time that that page was visited.
Calm down.
Why was it important to remove that timestamp from the program and the software?
It was clearly causing confusion.
Yeah.
Does the company have concerns when consumers are confused about information?
Of course, yes.
Do companies have concerns if a consumer tries to manipulate the use of that information?
There,
Of
now
course.
you're going 90, okay?
Are companies concerned that
No,
a
it's
label
fine.
could be misleading for somebody who may not have a higher level of experience?
Yes.
When that decision was made to change that for clarification, do you make that solely by yourself?
No, I did not.
Who do you consult with and who's part of that
My
decision
beautiful
process?
So again, after my research, I passed the results of my research to the Forensic Research Group. This is a team based at Cellrite whose sole job is to do the research, do the coding to make sure that what we're giving to customers is correct. They spent some time validating the research that I did, verifying that my research was correct, and then they were responsible for making the change based on the updated research.
It was suggested that a separate software program, not the company you work for, Cellbrite, but Axiom, reflects this search as deleted. That's not entirely accurate, is it?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to form.
Running an Axiom program, would it reflect this search as deleted?
Yes, and it is a deleted search.
Does it have a label on it?
It does.
Is that carved?
Yes, it would be.
Now, are you familiar with the Axiom Artifact Reference Guide when it talks about the dangers of relying on the timestamp?
I'm not familiar with it referencing dangers, but I'm aware of the document.
Are you aware of the reference guide when it talks about Safari suspended state tabs?
Yes.
It offers that since these are local tab states, results from this artifact may contain an earlier date and time compared to the results in the Safari history artifact if iCloud Safari synchronization.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Are you aware of the reference guide?
I am.
Are you aware that it cautions that a timestamp can be misinterpreted?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Sir, when you came to your opinion that the search for how long to die in the cold at 6:23 and 6:24 in the morning of January 29, 2022, was the time that they were actually inputted, not 2:27. In forming your opinion, did you consider
Thank you for the follow.
both Cellbrite and Axiom software?
I did.
Did you consider other tools as well?
Yes, my own.
And tell us a little bit about your own tool.
Again, this is a tool I've been writing for approximately 5 or 6 years now. Partially for fun, partially for research purposes. And it's a tool I make available to other examiners globally.
And sir, when you were trying to examine these searches that in your opinion were 6:23 and 6:24 a.m., did you ever try to test it yourself and actually take a phone so you could either prove or disprove to yourself that that earlier timestamp didn't mean it was the time that it was searched?
Oh, definitely. Yes, that's the kind of thing I do all the time when verifying artifacts.
And in your opinion, is that helpful in understanding how a timestamp earlier could relate to a later search?
Exactly, very helpful.
Would you be willing to do a live demonstration for us on the screen and show
Okay.
us how that works?
Yes.
Okay. How long would that take?
Probably about 5 minutes.
Okay. Could you show us?
Of course.
You refer, Your Honor.
Okay.
He's trying to clean the adhesive off of himself. Not where he had surgery, don't worry. I'm watching very closely. He's not licking where you think he is. He's licking where they had bandaged him. He's not licking where you think he is. He's licking where they had bandaged him. He's getting the adhesive off. Oh, I got his... Babe, I don't need the scissors anymore. I got his thing off. You want to hold your son and give him a hug?
Come here, Minxie.
There's something really bothering him there and on his back leg right here.
It's... So, I think...
Right here.
So, I think here is probably where they said he has the incision for his fixing.
His leg?
No, not his leg.
This is his leg. This area has been
On
looking
the
like
inside or outside?
South. Well, right here and right here. Nope. You cannot lick your paws, sir. They're on sidebar, guys.
Minxie.
Yeah, he's on payments. You cannot, no, sir. You cannot lick your paw. Here, your turn.
Come here, come see daddy. Come see daddy.
Oh, my arms. He's getting heavy. Holy sweet cheese and crackers, is he heavy? I didn't know how heavy he was. I'll use my left hand. I agree, Russ. It is totally rude. It's not proper etiquette. Make sure he doesn't lick those
I'm trying
spots.
to make sure.
Wouldn't that be something if he has to put the comb back on him? At least we didn't cut it.
No.
Now I'm second guessing myself
What do you mean?
about cutting it off or taking it off. Because he's our baby.
Place to take our lunch and recess.
Oh, you're finally giving them lunch. But we don't have to wait, don't worry.
With I'm going to ask you to review the report, but the rest of it.
Please rise to the jury.
Stop. No.
And let me get past their lunch break conversation. Thank you for the follow. They're not going to be.
And 87% said
Nope. Rude.
What are you doing?
He just burped and didn't say excuse me.
Sorry, excuse me.
Found it.
Celebrate Expert, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.
They'll be back in a minute. I don't want to go any further because I'll miss it. It's a very quick opening.
Please be seated. Court is in session.
See?
All right, Mr. Brennan, go right ahead.
like to ask you a couple of general questions.
Yes.
You mentioned with reference to
Just pay attention
location
to it.
data that the scope of identifying a location of a phone can change depending on what information the phone is receiving.
I'm sorry.
Yep, I'll try
Rephrase.
again. You showed us a number of graphs and exhibits
Yes.
that show different circles. Some might be smaller, some
No spoilers, please.
might be larger than others.
Yes.
And you shared with us that location information is being received from a number of different sources.
Yes.
Can you remind us again what can affect that location data as far as receiving some high accuracy, mid, and low level? What could affect the receipt of that information?
So primarily, the requesting application defines how accurate it needs the data. iOS Location Services then determines the best technology to use in order to work out that location. And it can use GPS information for the most accurate. It can use Wi-Fi cell sighting, so it understands the Wi-Fi networks that it can detect close by, and it knows where those networks are. And from that, it can derive where it itself is. Similar idea with both Bluetooth beacons and with cell tower technology. It understands where the cell towers are, it understands where the Bluetooth beacons are, and if it can see those particular cell towers or beacons, it knows roughly where itself must be.
You share with us there are some factors that can affect that location data,
Yes.
in addition to being in a building, like a house or a business. That's one way it can be affected.
It is.
And there are other ways as well, isn't there?
There are.
And could you share again the other ways that location information could change?
Yeah, the weather can play an effect on it. The geography of the area, whether it's in a rural or urban environment, other kinds of interference. If there are other items close by that are emitting electrical interference, it could affect the location data as well.
How about a body being on the phone? Could that affect location data?
Objection, Your Honor.
Ask it differently.
If a human being was covering the phone so it wasn't exposed to the air, could that affect the location data?
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
I believe it could, yes.
You were shown Exhibit 40. It was one select piece of your report. It was a graph. With the court's permission, I'd like to show Exhibit 40.
Yes.
Exhibit 40 has two circles, one darker, one white.
Yes,
And do you remember being asked questions about this particular exhibit?
I do.
And in addition to this exhibit, is there other information in your report that wasn't shown to you that would put this in context?
There is.
This exhibit is to demonstrate a window of when location data was taken for a particular time.
Objection, Your Honor.
Watch the form of the question, Mr.
This photograph, what does it represent?
There were two particular time periods of approximately 5 seconds where multiple records showed identical latitude and longitude. So the same center point of the radius, but the radius themselves differed. So in this case, the white circle or the white circles show the lowest accuracy and the highest accuracy for 5 records that were all within a 5 second time period. And that shared the same latitude, longitude as the central point.
And looking at this snapshot of 5 seconds, is this still consistent with your opinion that to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, you opine that the cell phone was in the flagpole area the entire evening of January 29th, 2022?
Sandra.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
Yes, it still aligns with my opinion.
When you provide a report with all the different graphs and explanations, do you expect it's going to be shared with the defense attorneys?
Of course,
And you understand in this case, everything is shared.
of course.
And when you shared your report with this piece of information, did you include a summary chart that wasn't shown to you on examination?
I believe I did, yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Lay down, baby. You're fine.
Showing you your
Thank you.
report. Do you recognize your report?
I do.
And what page are you on?
22.
Do you recognize anything in particular as far as the chart on that page?
I do. There's a chart at the top with the location data that was used to create the image shown.
Does that chart help explain this photograph?
It does.
And move that chart into evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Alessi?
No objection, Your Honor.
It's okay, honey.
The 44.
Thank you.
With the court's permission, I'd like Ms. Gilman to show us the chart.
Yes.
How long of a time period does that photograph encompass?
The photograph has got 2 time periods of 5 seconds each, which are approximately 40 minutes apart.
And what does this show us? Can you explain the chart that goes along with that photograph that was shown to you?
So this chart is, or I should say, the map shows 5 of the records from this particular chart. But we can see that all of these records have a consecutive timestamp 1 second apart. The latitude and longitude is identical for all of these records, but at the same time, the accuracy drops from 43 meters to 7 meters within that same 8-second time period. The idea was to demonstrate that if you had one of these records on its own, if you only had the 43-meter accurate record, for example, then the phone could be anywhere within that 43-meter radius. But as time goes on, the accuracy is refined. The same central point is used by iOS, but we've now got an accuracy of 7 meters. And again, if we were to say that the phone is anywhere within that 7 meters, it's a much more accurate representation, according to the data, than the 43 meters would be. And with an 8-second time period, if the device was actually moving during that time, I wouldn't expect to see the latitude and longitude remain exactly the same. There'd be some degree of movement in the coordinates.
When you're producing location information in the circles that represent the location change, small, medium, large, at different times, does this chalk help represent that there can be changes in the location data, but the item can remain dormant?
So ask that differently, Mr. Brennan.
What is the exact point of the demonstration or this chalk? How does that help us understand the movement or the lack of movement of a cell phone?
I believe it demonstrates the fact that the phone is constantly refining the location data or the accuracy of the location data, even though it's using the same central point, the latitude and longitude, as the reference point. It doesn't necessarily mean the device had to move.
If I could go back to Exhibit 40, please. So looking at your photograph that you were asked about, there are 2 different circles, one dark and one light.
Yes.
And those circles are in different spots.
Yes.
Based on the chalk, or the chart you just showed us, are both of those different color circles consistent with a phone being in the same spot and not moving?
The previous chart that was shown only accounts for the white circles on this map. And it only shows the highest and the lowest accuracy. 20 minutes later, there was another similar scenario where there were multiple records with the same central GPS coordinates, but with different accuracy levels, and that's what was used for the black circles. Importantly, in my opinion, they all overlap, so it's possible that the device is somewhere in between those 2 circles for the duration of the time.
Now, finally, I want to turn back to the phone that was attributed to Jennifer McCabe. And you had shared with us your opinions about the time in which the searches at 623 and 624 were made.
Correct.
And I asked if you could just show us live, right now, how it works that a person can open a tab, and there's a timestamp, a time when it's open, and then make a later search but still retain the original timestamp.
Yes.
Is that something you can do for us?
It is, yeah.
Okay. With the court's
That's
permission,
you.
I'd ask Mr. Whiffen to give
Yes.
us a live demonstration of
Okay.
this.
Do you
Thank
want
you.
the light off, Mr. Whitman?
The light off would be better, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Okay, first of all, I will highlight on the left side of the screen here, this is actually a live representation of what I have on a phone that's in front of me. So as I move this around, you can actually see on the screen that the screen refreshes. I'll also point out the iOS version here is 15.2.1, which matches that from Jennifer McCabe's phone. On the right side of the screen is the tool which I spoke about earlier, the one that I've been writing for several years. I make it available for free for any examiner who wants to download it and research primarily iOS devices.
Are you
Here, you
trying
can see
to
I've got a
sell
live
us?
connection to the device. So every file and folder that is on the device I can see within this directory view as you would normally see on a regular computer.
okay?
And we can see the browserstate.db database.
You're okay.
If I open that database up, you can see there are 4 tables, one of which is called tabs.
Mr. Whiffen, I hate to interrupt you. Can we make this larger? I know jurors earlier were hoping
I can try to.
to have a larger
Why are
view of
you
what's up
acting
there.
so scared? You're still medicated.
Is that
huh?
going to
better.
impact your demonstration in any way?
It shouldn't. I should be able to work around it. Thank you.
Is that better for the jurors?
Okay,
Not
perfect.
just for you. Yes.
It's just a little closer.
Oh, let me pull forward.
Thank you.
Turn the air conditioning on.
So at this moment in time, the tabs table has 2 records. I'm just going to ask you to ignore those for now. They're from a previous demonstration. I can't delete those without taking longer to do this demonstration. If I go back onto the phone itself, just takes a second to refresh and open up Safari. And I can open up a new tab. What I will just do now is search for the time that we're on now, so 14:10, and hit go. So right now that page is loaded, sure. And I can go back into the database and just hit reload. That will bring the most recent version of the database from the device back onto my computer and show it back in this window in exactly the same way as I was viewing it a second ago. And you can see right now there's still only 2 records. So the fact that I did a new tab and a new search has had no effect on what I can see. This is different to on previous versions of iOS, where you would already now see a new record with the 1410 search, which I'd made. And I'm going to do another search. Hopefully it's going to catch up with me. It's now 1411, so I'll do a search for 1411. Okay, we can see the page is loaded, and I can go back over to this tool and reload the database. We still don't have a new record that shows that a search is being conducted. I'll just take the time to do another little search and just do 1411X. Reload the page again. Still, nothing's appeared. I can even close down Safari, just minimize it into the background, and then bring it back into the foreground by just pressing the Safari icon. I can hit reload again, and we still don't have a new record, and I can do a further search for now 1412. 1412 is loaded, and I can reload the page. Still no records present. I can now go into Safari and just close the tab.
It's okay. Come on.
So now that tab is closed, and I can just prove that. So that tab is now closed, and I can go back over here and reload, and you'll see a new record has appeared. I'm just going to change the time zone just so that this shows accurately, and tell my tool to treat the timestamps as Eastern time. So we look at this particular record, you can see the title is 1412. That's the last item that I searched for. can see the URL is the google.ca /search 1412. Again, that is the content that I searched for. And then we see this field here, the last viewed timestamp. And the time here still says 1410 because that's the time that I first loaded the tab. The fact that I navigated between, the fact that I minimized and reopened Safari, bears no relevance to this timestamp. It is purely the timestamp that tab was created or brought back into focus.
To an untrained eye, can that development of a timestamp become confusing?
Yes, the name last viewed time clearly has implications that would make you believe that it was the time that the page was last viewed. It's a very simple test that I just demonstrated to prove that that's not the case.
Is there any other reason that Cellebrite removed that process of timestamp other than to clarify that issue?
Objection, Your Honor.
No, I'll allow it.
Purely because we determined it was unreliable to use as a time that the page was last viewed.
If an examiner simply made a report from Axiom or Cellebrite or another software but didn't have the time or skill to actually go into the data, could they be easily confused by this?
Yes, the way that Cellebrite provided this information showed as last viewed timestamp. The way that Axiom provides this data is called last interaction time. So there is some leeway there to misunderstand it less from Axiom because it's talking about tab interaction rather than a web page that was last viewed.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, thank you. The lights on, please. Mr. Alessi?
Briefly, Your Honor, if I may. Thank you.
Do you want Mr. Whiffen to take this down?
We didn't take
yes,
into
please, Your
account
Honor.
how medicated he still is.
Good afternoon, and hello again, Mr. Whiffen.
Good afternoon.
Thinks he's still medicated. Way too medicated.
Magnet Forensics Axiom still shows a 2:27:40
No, Ryan.
a.m. timestamp on its forensic tool, correct?
Correct.
And Magnet Forensic is a reliable forensic tool company,
He
correct?
won't, Parker.
As reliable as they come, yes.
The demonstration that you just performed, when did you create it?
The demonstration?
What you just,
Like literally just now as I was doing it live.
so you
Is that
just
what you mean?
created the demonstration now live on the stand?
Okay, you got it.
That particular demonstration, yes.
Yeah.
You got
So-
it, baby.
That demonstration, therefore, was created after
It's okay now.
Cellebrite removed the 2:27:40 timestamp
It's from
from
pain.
all of its tool programs, correct?
No, incorrect. I mean, that demonstration that I just provided was right now, it was live. Initially, when I did these tests, I did the same kind of experiment, the same type of testing back in late 2023, I believe. And after I did those tests and used that research, that is when Cellebrite removed the timestamp.
Maybe my question wasn't clear. Let me
Yes.
see if I can rephrase it.
I don't know because I gave it to
The
him before we picked him
demonstration
up.
that you just gave,
Hi.
when did you prepare it? The demonstration, not just the demonstration that you just showed on the screen. When did you create that demonstration on your computer?
Hey, again, I've been doing this demonstration for 2
That's
years.
not what he
My
asked.
question, again, is the demonstration you just gave.
Yes.
When was the last time you altered that demonstration?
Other than to use different search terms, it's the same demonstration.
I'll try it a different way.
Yes, please.
When was the last time you altered in any way the demonstration you just gave?
Right now.
So you altered it right now, and that alteration was made after Cellebrite had removed the 2:27:40 a.m. timestamp from its programs, correct?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Whiffen,
There.
all set, sir.
Thank you.
Very much.
About damn time.
Maybe we can
Every
see why
time-
Mr. Whiffen is collecting his items.
Every time Binks looks at me, he acts like it's the first time he's seen me all day. It's really weird. You okay? Yeah, celebration for sure. I remember when we got Mila fixed and she came home, she was bumping into stuff, but she wasn't acting like this. What the hell did they give my cat? They're on a sidebar. Those don't usually last long. Where did those instructions? Oh, Aaron took them. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. It's like he doesn't realize he's home. Nope, can't do that, baby. Can't do that, honey. I know. Life is so tough. I know. I'm sorry. One second. He's leaving his tongue out like this. Enjoy this little trip, because that's never happening again, young man. I'm thinking so too, but his tongue is just... Is it? I'm freaking out here. I'm not going to lie, Rhonda. No, my husband has the papers in the other room. I called him, waiting for him to come back. See, he just did it again. He just acted like he didn't know where he was. You're okay, I promise. Hi. You just saw me a minute ago, babe. Okay, it's okay. Yeah, I called him, but he's not hearing me. Hold on. They're still muted, guys. It's okay. It's okay, honey. Oh, you hear Daddy getting you food? Can you guys hear me? I muted you while I was calling for Aaron, so I didn't make y'all go deaf too. Okay, it's okay. Hold on, wait till Daddy gets in.
Thank you very much. Your Honor, may I call my next witness?
Please.
Calls Jennifer McCabe.
You hear that, guys? Jennifer McCabe. Okay, calm down. Daddy's gonna bring it into you, baby. No, I gotta hold you because you're gonna get hit by the door. Daddy's gonna bring it in. It's okay. It's okay. Daddy's bringing it in. I'll let you down when Daddy opens the door, okay?
Please, quick, raise your right hand.
See? I told you. He just tried to launch in the air. His meow.
That you pull the microphone close.
Thank you.
What's wrong with his meow?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Right ahead.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hold on, Rhonda. My cat can't meow, not like normal. I just hear. Meh, meh.
He's hungry.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Hi, I'm Jennifer McCabe, MCCABE.
Ms. McCabe, how old are you?
I am 49 years old.
Are you
I'm
married?
thinking so.
Yes, I am married with 4 daughters.
Without detailing your children's names, can you tell us a little bit about your family?
Sure, I have 4 daughters that are 16, 17, 19, and 21. 2 are in high school and 2 are in college.
In raising your children, was your family active in local sports?
Yes, all 4 of my...
Aaron, did they give you any medicine for Binks?
Pain,
Aaron, did they give you any medicine for Binks?
pain medicine, yeah.
Did they tell you when to give it to him?
They said if he needs it.
Did they say when they last gave it to him?
Early in the morning.
My daughters played
He's fine. I just wanted food.
multiple sports from when they were young, 2 now
Pain medication is
are
to be
playing
long
in
acting.
college. My
Oral
husband and
medication
I
at home once
both
a
coached them. My husband coached them from when they were young up through 8th grade in soccer, and I coached them in basketball.
Don't leave us.
What?
This is an important witness.
Without
I need you
telling
to
me
watch Binks,
your
please.
address, what town are you from?
I'm from Canton.
How long have you lived in Canton with your family for?
I was born and raised in Canton, and now I'm raising my family there.
So your family, their whole life, you've raised them in Canton?
1 year we lived in Stoughton with my daughter.
Who do you live with now?
I live with my husband and my 4 daughters.
Can you briefly give me a little bit more background
Yes.
on your children's school and your participation in that
only.
interaction with your children, raising them?
Yeah, so I was a teacher, and then once I had children, I stayed at home with them and basically was just kind of like your typical, I don't know, small town mom. I was the room parent. I coached them.
I'll allow it, but why don't we
Yes.
move on?
When I coached, I drove the kids back and forth on my team, would take them places, etc.
In the growth of your family and raising your children, at some point did you meet a gentleman by the name of John O'Keefe?
Yes,
Share with us meeting John O'Keefe.
sure. When my 3rd daughter was in kindergarten, she became friends with John's niece. And during that kindergarten school year, unfortunately,
Thank you.
Kaylee's mother and father both passed away, and John moved in the house and became Mr. Mom.
When John took over guardianship of the children, did you assist in
You're on
an
Binks
active
duty
role
for
in
a few
helping him?
minutes.
Yes, Kaylee and my daughter were very close, so she would come over and play. My daughter would go over there. Kaylee would come and have sleepovers. A lot of times it would be on Friday nights.
Thank you for
would have
remembering that,
Kaylee, and then another individual would have Patrick.
Had you known John
Thank you,
O'Keefe well
Danny.
before he took over guardianship of the children?
No.
During the time when he was the guardian of the children, did your relationship, not just with his niece and nephew, but with him, grow any closer?
Yes, we became very good friends.
How close of friends did you become over the years?
Well, throughout the years, obviously, when they were younger, we talked more, just about the logistics of CCD, pickup, drop off, basketball, sports. But then he would also call me, about, as the girls got older, the girl drama or, the hormones and things like that. He would also come over, and hang out and have a beer and, just talk about whatever was new in his life or going on, or, just the day in and day out struggles of his, life and raising the kids now and figuring it all out with, work and family and all of that.
Leading into January 28th of 2022, so the jury understands, how close is your friendship with John O'Keefe at that time?
He was a very good friend of mine that I knew I could call for anything.
How good.
I want you to take us forward to January 28th, 2022. Do you remember that day?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember it well?
Yes.
Take us to the early morning hours, January 28th, 2022. Did you learn there may be weather or a storm coming?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
We all saw the report that there was going to be a big storm, a nor'easter. So we all knew that basically all the Saturday activities were going to be canceled.
That includes sports?
Yes.
Was and is the sporting events of the children a big part of your life?
Yes, back then I had, two in high school that played 3 sports, and they played club sports as well. And then the 2 middle school played club sports and town sports. So most of our weekends were taken up by kind of running from one sporting event to the next.
When you learned about the weather and the changing schedule, did it change your plans for that day?
No, not particularly. I had my day was pretty set out. I had my niece, and then I had sporting events. It was kind of my plans for the next day that obviously got changed.
Take us through the afternoon of the 28th. What's happening?
Well, I had my niece for the week, and she was picked up. My oldest was on the hockey team, and she was having a team dinner at the house, so I picked up pizza, got desserts, set it up for them. And then I left with my daughters and my husband, Matt, and we met some of the parents from the high school basketball team at a local pub to grab a bite and a drink before the basketball game, because my other daughter played on the high school girls basketball team.
What time was the basketball game set for that night?
I believe it was 6 or 6:30.
Did you and your family go to the game?
Yes, we did.
After the game,
I see a resemblance.
After the game, I drove my daughter home. My sister, Nicole, sent me a text and said that she was going to be at the waterfall, and it was my nephew's birthday. He was going to meet up, and did I want to come by for a drink?
What is your nephew's name?
Brian Jr.
It was his birthday that night?
Yes, it was.
When you received the call to meet with friends and family at the waterfall, do you remember what time that plan was made?
I don't. My sister sent me a text at some point letting me know she was going to be there, so I don't know what time.
After the game and after some time, did you go to the waterfall to meet your friends and family?
Yes, I did.
Describe very briefly, what's the waterfall?
It's just a local town bar.
Do you remember about what time you got to the waterfall?
About 9 o'clock.
When you got there, was there anybody there that you knew?
Yes.
Okay, now take us inside the waterfall. When you get there, what do you see?
I walk in and I see Julie and Chris Albert, my niece Caitlin, my sister Nicole, and my niece's boyfriend Tristan.
You said you saw Julie and Nicole Albert in the waterfall?
Yes.
Were you related to either of them?
Nicole is my sister.
So Brian Sr. would be your brother-in-law?
Yes.
Also, you mentioned there was a niece?
Yes, Caitlin.
Is that Brian and Nicole's daughter?
Yes.
You mentioned the name Tristan. What's his relationship to your niece, to Brian Albert's niece?
He's now her fiance.
And was there anybody else I missed?
That's all who was there. I'm not sure if Nick Kolakidis was already in there when I got there or if he arrived right after. And then his wife joined us.
So when you're in the bar and you see your friends, what do you do next?
I immediately just, join them and sit down.
Were you eating, drinking?
I know I ordered a beer. They had appetizers on
That's
the
what I
table.
said.
I'm not sure whether I had any or not.
Were you drinking alcohol that night?
Yes.
As you're spending time with your family, did the night
Thank
grow?
you, Connie.
Yes.
Did you stay at the table where everybody was eating, or did you
Appreciate you.
move inside the bar?
We were pretty much right around the table.
Did anybody you knew join you or join the group at some point?
Yes, a little while later, Brian Albert and Brian Higgins joined us at the waterfall.
So when you first got there, was Brian Albert already there?
No, he wasn't.
Is that your brother-in-law, Brian Albert?
Yes.
And you said Mr. Higgins. Did you know Mr. Higgins?
I had met him a few times when he was out with Brian.
You had met him a few times before that night?
Yes.
Were you friendly with him?
He was a friend of Brian's.
Was he your friend?
No, he was Brian's friend.
You knew who he was?
Yes.
So when Mr. Albert and Mr. Higgins joined the group later, did they come directly to you, or did they stay somewhere else inside the bar?
No, they came over to our table, I believe.
How long were you in the waterfall for that night?
Approximately 9 to little around midnight-ish.
About 3 hours?
Yes.
Do you have an estimate how many drinks you had, alcoholic drinks you might have had?
I don't. I don't know. Maybe 2, 3.
Throughout the night, were you feeling any effects of the alcohol?
Not that I recall, no.
When the group was together, you mentioned a number of people have joined. Were you joined by other people later?
Yes.
Who were you joined by later?
John O'Keefe and Karen Reed.
And you talked about your relationship with John O'Keefe?
Yes, earlier, yes.
Did you make plans with him, or did he just show up?
I believe he had started the conversation about the night with Chris Albert.
Chris Albert is a different Albert than Brian Albert?
Yes.
How was the relationship between them?
Brian Albert and Chris Albert are brothers.
Was Chris Albert there when Mr. Higgins and Brian Albert arrived?
Yes. Actually, Chris, did I miss him? Because Chris was there with Julie. Did I? I'm not sure if I said that when I was naming everyone at the table. I apologize.
You may have.
Okay.
So when you first got there, he was at the table with your
Yes.
sister?
Yes, he was.
When moments before John O'Keefe arrived with the defendant, what was the mood in the group?
Cheerful. Good mood. Everybody was just out having a drink. We all knew the storm was coming tomorrow, and, just a typical average night.
Celebratory?
Yeah.
You said you were going to see Brian Albert Jr. for his birthday. Was Brian Albert Jr. at the waterfall when you got there?
No, he was not.
Was Brian Albert Jr. there anytime when you were at the waterfall?
No, he was not.
Without relating a conversation with some other person, did you have an understanding where Brian Albert Jr. was?
He was at home.
Did you historically or typically see Brian Albert Jr., your nephew, on his birthday?
Yeah, typically we always, get together. We try to and do a cake for whoever's birthday it is, and then whatever, aunts or cousins are around come over.
When John O'Keefe arrived at the waterfall with the defendant, do you have a general estimate or guess, not guess, but a general estimate of what time they arrived?
Approximately 11.
When they first arrived, did you see them?
Yes.
Where did you see them coming from?
I saw them walk in.
When they walked in, did you react in any way?
Yes, I was happy to see them.
Why were you happy to see them?
Because I loved John and I liked Karen.
So
I love
you were happy
John.
to see John?
Yes, very.
And I
You were
like
happy to see
Karen.
the defendant?
Yes.
Do you remember your first interaction with either John or the defendant that night inside the waterfall?
I believe John walked over to where I was.
My eyes.
Kind of to my end of the table, and then maybe Karen had walked to the other end of the table. But I would assume I probably hugged both of them when I saw them.
I'm going to ask you not to assume. If you don't know, that's
Okay.
okay. You said that you had known the defendant as well.
I cannot continue this without telling you guys out loud, physically louder. She looks just like Karen Reed, in my opinion. And it's really freaking me out.
Yes.
Do you remember how long she had been dating John O'Keefe up until that point?
I know I met her in July of 2020.
Had you had a chance to spend time or interact with her over that time before that night at the waterfall?
Yes, I had.
And share with us some of the moments or some of the reasons that you would interact.
The first time I met Karen, John had reached out. We would do pool days with him and his niece and his nephew. So he had told me he was dating a new girl and he wanted to bring her over. He said that she had multiple sclerosis. I also have multiple sclerosis. So he thought that that would be something we could, we would talk and bond over. I said, yeah, great, bring her over. So her and John and Kaylee and Patrick came over. We had a pool day. I liked Miss Reed immediately. I thought we hit it off. It was really great, talking to someone my age that also had MS, because I didn't really know a lot of people who have it. So it was really nice to have somebody to relate to. Then moving forward, we would see them, if it was my daughter's birthday party. When it was time for pickup, they would come in, have a couple drinks. Same thing for like a Halloween party. After basketball games.
So you spent time both with John and Miss Reed?
Yes.
Did you spend time with the defendant separately without John around?
No.
Did you become friendly with her?
Yes.
And were you friendly that night?
Yes.
After John and the defendant entered the bar and you agreed, did you interact or spend time with Miss Reed at the waterfall?
Yes, I did.
And speaking of the defendant, do you recognize her here in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
Could you kindly point to her and describe an article of clothing she's wearing?
She's sitting right over there with
What you really mean to say is, yeah, my mirror image.
a black shirt or a blue.
Is she between Attorney Jackson and Attorney Yannetti?
Yes, she is.
When you were at the waterfall that night, do you remember who you were speaking to or where you were spending your time?
As to earlier in the night or after?
I'm sorry, after Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant arrived.
Yes, Miss Reed came over and spoke to me because I had seen her the Saturday before, and she had told me how she had started a new medication, and it was giving her some awful side effects. And I said, I'm shocked they put you on that, etc.
Let me not ask you about conversations you
Okay.
had, but about the moment that you were in. Did you spend time with Miss Reed that night?
Yes, I did.
Inevitably, did you drink more alcohol as the night went on?
I believe I had, like I said earlier, a couple of drinks, 2, 3, not sure.
Did you ever have a shot of alcohol?
I do not believe I had the shot, no.
Did you see the party, the group of friends and family doing the shot?
I was in the bathroom and walked out, and they were doing or had just done a shot.
With the court's permission, I'd like to display parts of Exhibit 22, which has already been introduced into evidence, which is video surveillance footage from the waterfall.
Okay.
I don't know what she sounds like normally to be able to compare.
I'd like to start at 10:54:20, please. If you could just stop for 1 second. Do you recognize what's in that video?
Yes.
And what is that?
The waterfall.
That is the waterfall.
Okay, kindly proceed.
I think when she said I love John, that was the truth. I just don't know what way.
If you could stop.
I don't know. I don't have
Do you see
anything
the
to
two
compare
people
it to.
entering from the left?
I do.
Do you know who they are?
I believe that is Miss Reed and John O'Keefe.
Ms. Gilman, is there any way to enlarge the top of the video where the other people are closer to the table of our? No, okay. Looking at this video, can you tell or identify anybody under that timestamp? And if you can't, that's okay, but if you can you tell us who you see?
I think the guy right there, well, where she just is Brian Higgins.
Okay, if you could go up a little bit, Ms. Gilman.
I believe that's my husband, Matt, and then on the right, and I think that's me on the left.
Okay, and if you can go down the table to the left, Ms. Gilman. You recognize who that might be from the clothing?
I'd have to take a guess that
Okay,
it could.
don't guess. It's okay if you don't. Anybody else at the table more to the left do you recognize?
Not from this picture.
Ms. Gilman, could you highlight where Ms. McCabe thinks that she is on that video with that circle you just had and play the video? You could stop. Is that you clapping, Ms. McCabe?
Yes, it is.
Why are you clapping?
Because I was happy to see them.
Both of them?
Yes.
Okay. Could you continue, please? And who's that person walking right to left hugging people?
That is John O'Keefe.
Can you continue,
I
please,
can't
Ms.
make
Gilman?
people out at all. Just shapes. That's it. Blurry shapes.
Are you interacting with anybody?
I can't see where I am.
Okay. If you could stop the video, please. Could you move ahead to 11:26:50, please? 11:26:50.
Am I the only one that talks to their
Is that your
screen?
group still at the waterfall?
Yes, it is.
If you could stop there, Ms. Gilman. If we could hone in or circle where you were previously, where we saw Ms. McCabe. I know it's a bit blurry. If you can, and if you can't, please let me know. Can you see whether you're in that area?
I believe I am, yes.
Could you put the circle down just a little bit, Ms. Gilman? Okay. If you could play from 11:26:50 to 11:27, please. We're a little bit ahead right now. Who are you hugging there?
I believe that's Miss Reed.
Thank you. One more, Ms. Gilman. I'm going to ask you to move forward to 11:46.
Oh yeah, it is Tuesday, isn't it? I didn't even know.
Today's Tuesday, yeah. Right about now, it's
I forgot. Aaron heard me talking back to you saying, yeah, it is Tuesday. And he's like, yep. I brought Binks in on Monday. Okay, sneeze, I think.
Could you pause, Ms. Gilman? Could you circle in that same area where Ms. McCabe was
No sneeze.
last describing? Can you make anything out in this video?
Yes, it looks like they're all, toasting or doing a cheer before they do a shot.
Can you see whether or not the defendant's in that part of the video?
Yes, it looks like she is in front of the man in the plaid coat.
Were you participating with
I'm glad
the
you
drinking at this
clarified
moment?
that, Ruth.
I don't see myself in the video. I don't believe I was.
But you were drinking separately that night, weren't you?
Yes,
My
I was
brain
drinking
went
beer.
elsewhere on that.
you can continue, please.
I wasn't gonna judge. I was just,
Thank you. Shortly after the shot, was there conversation about leaving the waterfall as a group?
Yes, there was.
Was there any discussion about where the group should go?
At first, Miss Reed was asking if we could go up the street to D&E.
What's D&E?
D&E is a sub shop that's owned by Chris Albert.
Was it open that late at night?
No, it wasn't.
Rhonda, are you still in here?
Had you in the past gone to that pizza shop after hours to eat?
Yes, we
What
had.
was Ozempic?
And tell us what the defendant was saying?
She just kept asking, can we go up to D&E? Can we go up to D&E? She wanted just to go up and, Chris makes food and then we were going to go all, she wanted us all just to go up there and eat and hang out.
That wasn't...
Binks hasn't gone to the bathroom at all since he's been brought home. At what point should I worry?
Uncommon occurrence for the group to sometimes go to that pizza shop after hours, was it?
Oh, okay,
Nope.
got you.
Did the group decide to go to the pizza shop?
They decided they weren't going to.
Did the group decide to go to the pizza shop?
They decided they weren't going to go.
Okay. Was there a different plan made?
Before Brian Albert left, he said to the group, hey, we're going to go back home and have a beer with Brian Jr. If anyone wants to come by.
But not to go to the
When you
bathroom at all?
received the invitation to the group to go back to Brian Albert's house, did you decide whether you were going to go home or go back to your sister's house?
Yes, I decided I was going to go to my sister's house.
Without saying what was said, was there any
He has wet food. He drank that liquid. He's not drinking water. He has a whole bowl. Barely touched it. Just maybe a little. That's it.
discussion in the group among the participants about going back to your sister or Brian Albert's house?
Everybody seemed to want to go back.
If I'm this paranoid with my fur babies, could you imagine how it would be with a real baby? Maybe there's a reason.
Did anybody object to going back?
No.
Had you been to your sister's house before?
Yes.
Many times?
Yes.
Do you know the address of where your sister lived?
Yes.
And so, after that conversation, did you stay at the waterfall for a little bit, or did you
Thank
leave
you guys so
immediately?
much.
Probably left after maybe 5-10 minutes.
Without saying what was said, before you left, did you have a chance to speak to John O'Keefe?
I did, yes.
You spoke to him inside the waterfall?
Yes.
Did you have a chance to speak to the defendant?
Yes.
And was your plan to go back to your sister's house?
Yes.
Before you left, did you have any understanding whether or not Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant were going to join you?
Do you have another understanding regarding that?
Yes.
And what was your understanding?
They were coming.
Who else was going to go back to your nephew and your sister's house?
Brian Higgins and my niece Caitlin.
A little after 12, did you leave the waterfall?
Yes.
Do you remember that night leaving?
Yes.
Before you left, did you talk to anybody in particular?
Yes. Miss Reed and then Mr. O'Keefe.
Did you speak to them inside the waterfall?
I walked out with Miss Reed and we spoke at the doorway and then John joined us.
Did you invite Miss Reed to come with you?
I did, yes.
Did she decline?
Yes.
And who did you go to your sister's house with? Who drove?
I drove and I went with my husband, Matt.
Anybody else?
No.
Do you remember what time it was that you were speaking to Miss Reed about going to your sister's house?
After midnight.
If I could have Exhibit 22 again. Ms. Gilman, if you could take us to 12:10:36. could stop it there, please. Did you have a chance to talk to Mr. O'Keefe and the defendant outside of the waterfall?
Yes,
And do you know specifically what time you left the waterfall?
it was after midnight.
When you left the waterfall with your husband, you said you were driving. Did you stop anywhere along the way before you got to your sister's house?
No.
Tell us what you see when you get to your sister's house. What are the weather conditions like as you're driving there?
It's starting to snow to the point where it's starting to like accumulate. It's on your car. It's just, getting on the street.
Is it light? Is it heavy?
It's light at this point.
How long does it take to get from the waterfall to your sister's house?
5 to 8 minutes, depending on lights and weather, etc.
When you first get to your sister's house, while you're still in the car, describe what you see.
My wipers are on. I'm just looking out the window and it's snowing. It's dark.
Anybody in the driveway? Any cars in the driveway that you see?
Oh, when I pull up to my sister's?
Yes.
As I pull down the street, I take a left into the driveway, and there is a Jeep that's parked on the street, and there's maybe a couple of cars in my sister's driveway.
What do you do when you arrive at your sister's house?
I go in the house.
Now, there are a couple doors at your sister's house?
Yes.
Is there a front
I
door?
think they all were.
Yes.
Is there a side door?
Yes.
Which one's closer to the driveway?
The side door.
Which door do you go in when you get to your sister's house?
The front door.
Was anybody with you when you went in?
My husband, Matt.
You walked in together?
Yes.
Tell us the first person you remember meeting.
When I went in the house?
Yes.
Probably my niece was at the table, and then I saw my nephew, Brian.
Was there anybody else you saw at the table?
Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson.
So when you walk in the front door of the house, is it what table? Is this a living room table, a kitchen table?
Oh, you walk in and then you go to the right and it's into the kitchen and there's a table there.
Is the kitchen separate from the living room or is it open?
It's open, but they're separate.
Can you see the kitchen table when you walk in the door if you turn and look right?
Yes.
And when you go into the kitchen, you said there was a woman by the name of Julie Nagel?
Yes.
And then another woman, Sarah?
Yes.
You know her last name?
Levinson.
Okay. Julie Nagel, did you know her when you walked in the house that night?
I had met her a few times.
Had you spent time with her? Were you friends with her?
No, I just had met her a few times, and she had watched my dog for me when my nephew couldn't.
When you would go away, would your nephew be responsible to watch your dog?
Yes.
Did you understand that Julie Nagel had watched your dog a couple of times?
Yes.
Had you ever socialized with her before that night?
No, I may have seen her at a graduation party, but never beyond that.
Were you friends with her at that point?
No.
Friendly enough that she watched your dogs?
Yes, through my nephew. He just said my friend's going to do it, and I trusted his judgment.
And there was another woman by the name of Sarah. Did you know her before you saw her that night?
I knew of her. If I were to see her, I'd say hi, but that's the extent of it.
How did you know of her?
Just from being in the town, going to different sporting activities, and just being around.
You said your nephew Brian was there as well in the kitchen?
Yes.
This was his birthday?
Yes.
How old was he?
I think he was turning 23.
Was there anybody else in the house when you and your husband first got there?
Yes, my sister and Brian Albert and Brian Higgins.
So Mr. Higgins, Brian Albert, and your sister was there before you?
Yes.
Where was everybody when you first came in?
My niece Caitlin, Sarah Levinson, Julie Nagel, and Brian Jr. were all at the kitchen table. My sister was over, I think, cleaning the counters, and Brian were off in that TV room that you can see from the kitchen because there's a wide opening.
If you walk in the front door, would I look left or right to see the TV room?
You'd look right to the kitchen, and then through the kitchen's the TV room, but you could look, and when you walk in, you can see because it's open.
Is the TV room in any way have a relationship with that side door?
Yes, it does.
If you were to walk in the side door, would you be walking into the TV room?
Yes.
I don't know.
When you saw Your nephew Brian Jr. and his friends, are his friends about the same age as him?
Yes.
Were they drinking?
Yes.
Was there music?
Yes.
And when you went in, did you spend time with the group?
Yes, I sat right down and started talking to them.
And when you were speaking to them, did you have any drinks that night?
I believe they brought me over a White Claw, but I didn't have more than a sip of it. I really wasn't, it was at that point where I just didn't want another drink.
As you were in the kitchen, were you expecting anybody else?
We had mentioned it to Karen and John, and I had actually just spoken to John, so I was expecting them.
So, when you saw John O'Keefe in the waterfall, that wasn't the last time you spoke to him?
No.
You had spoken to him, was it on the ride to your nieces? I mean, to your sisters?
Yes.
Did you call him or did he call you?
He texted me and I believe asked something like, where to? And since I was driving, I called him.
When you called him, what did you tell him? What did you guys say?
Okay, perfect.
I just said they live 34 Fairview Road off of Chapman.
Do you know if John O'Keefe had ever been to the Albert home before?
I don't believe he had.
In that conversation, how long did that conversation take?
It was quick.
Was there any other conversation that you had with him other than that one conversation?
Yes, he called me back and he was trying to find it.
Trying to find the address?
Try to find the house on Fairview.
Did he ask you for help trying to find the address?
I'm not sure his exact words, but yes, he needed help. And so I just said, I told him, just go down the street, go by Bella's house. It's at the bottom of the street.
So you used Bella's house as a point of designation to try to guide him to get to your sister's house?
Yes.
Tell us who Bella was to John.
Bella is my daughter and John's
Jen
niece
McCabe.
friend. So Bella is friends with my daughter and John's niece.
Okay. And was there any relationship between Bella's mother and John that you knew of?
I have no idea, yes. Yeah, this is Jennifer McCabe. Friends with John O'Keefe. Actually, her exact words were, I love John. I like Karen. She could have meant absolutely nothing by that. Maybe she just meant loved him in a brotherly way. There are lots of names, yes. That's one thing I don't understand as well. Why was it only the women that were looking for John? Where were all the men? I'm not trying to be sexist at all. I saw one of you had typed that, and I have to agree. Why was it only the females looking? Where were the men? Because when the paramedic testified, he said that nobody from inside the house was outside. So where the hell were they? They met in 2020, July of 2020. According to her speaking there. My understanding was they had been dating for 2 years. Did I get that time frame wrong? It's completely fine to not feel love for a person. I found it odd that she worded it that way, and then she specifically said, I liked Karen. You're okay, baby. Go sleep. We're on a sidebar, guys. It's not me muted. It's them. He's acting severely medicated. He'll close his eyes for a few seconds. Jen McCabe's on the stand. Well, yeah, she's the person on the stand right now. I know a lot of people are waiting for that. I can't get over how similar she looks to Karen, though. Hi, baby. Every time he looks at me, he acts like it's his first time seeing me. It's so cute. If only you would let the medicine put you to sleep like you're supposed to, baby. There we go. Good boy. I think he's seriously traumatized. Really. Baby, did you get traumatized? I'm sorry. No worries. How are you? I could see his reflection in the mirror, and now he just turned his head to where I can't see if his eyes are closed. I'm doing okay, thanks. Just loving on Binksy, trying to get him to calm down and go to sleep. That guy looks like he doesn't have a mouth again.
Hey there, Karen Reed trial watchers. You know what a lot of the trials we cover remind me of?
thank you.
That the world is unfortunately very
Thank you, but
unpredictable.
polite
And I'll tell you
pass.
what, having a great
Polite pass.
The snow was coming. It was cold.
You would give them a ride home?
Yes.
Did you offer?
Yes.
Who was going to drive home between you and your husband?
Matt drove home.
When you left, I want you to describe as you step out into the driveway or the walkway. Was it the front door or side door, if you remember?
I walked out the front door.
Is the weather like it was when you first got there?
No, it's picked up.
Tell us what you mean by it's picked up.
So as I walk out, you kind of go, the walkway is to the left. So I walk down the steps, I go to the left. The snow was coming, it was cold, the wind was picking up. So I kind of just like curled up and ran to my car quick to get in.
What part of the car did you get into?
Front passenger.
Who was driving?
Matt.
And where were the other two people?
Sarah and Julie were in the back seat.
Who was in what spot?
I'm not exactly sure.
So both of the young women were in the back seat?
Yes.
Was there any conversation when you got into the car?
We got in the car and they were teasing me.
Why were they teasing you?
Because I had like bread and maybe peanut butter in my car.
Why did you have bread and peanut butter in your car?
I had my niece for the week, and I was dragging her like to all my kids' sporting events. So we'd go from like one game to another game to a practice. So sometimes instead of always giving her McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, I'd try to throw her a peanut butter sandwich.
And they were making fun of you?
Yeah.
As the car backs out of the driveway, tell us what you're doing.
I'm talking to the girls.
You just moved your head.
Yes.
Does that mean anything?
Yes.
Tell us.
They were both sitting behind me, so I was like turning and, chatting and talking.
After your husband pulls out of the driveway, do you start to drive home?
Yes.
If the house is on my right and you're driving, are you in the passenger seat closest to the house or furthest away?
Passenger seat closest.
So you're driving, if you look at a picture of the house, you would be driving from right to left?
Yes.
So as you start to drive, or your husband starts to drive the car, what direction are you looking in, if you remember?
The back seat.
Did you drive by the front of the house, do you know?
We pulled out of the driveway and went up Chapman.
Okay. And your husband and you passed by the front of the house?
Yes.
Did you pass by the flagpole?
Yes.
Were you looking at the flagpole?
No.
And how dark was it at that point?
It was dark.
Snow?
Yes.
As you're passing the flagpole, do you hear or see anything remarkable?
No, I'm not really paying attention. I'm just chatting to the girls, and Matt's just focusing on driving.
When you're talking to the girls and they're making fun of you, what's the mood in the car?
We're all laughing and joking.
Where do you go next?
We drive Julie Nagel home.
After you drop off Miss Nagel, where do you go?
We drop off Sarah Levinson.
Is the weather constant?
Yes.
After you drop off the young woman in separate spots, where do you go?
We went home.
Can you tell us when you get home what happens next?
We go in the house. I go up to bed. Matt makes himself a snack and then joins me upstairs.
Do you have a telephone?
Yes.
An iPhone?
Yes.
When you go to bed, do you stay up at all?
Yes.
Do you use your iPhone?
Yes, I do.
What were you doing?
I texted a few people and then I did a couple of Google searches.
And what were the searches for?
One, my daughter had played in a basketball game earlier in the night and it was a very good game, so I went and I read the report on it. And then my other daughter had an offer to play on a basketball team, so we had to make a decision about whether or not we were going to accept the spot. So I was just looking up that basketball club.
Other than those regular searches that one would do, was there anything remarkable about what you were searching at 2:27 that time frame?
No.
After you were looking at websites for your child's sports, what did you do?
I put my phone down and went to sleep.
And up until that point, had there been any discord or fighting or arguments in your world?
No.
Peaceful night?
Yes.
Did you go to sleep, Miss McCabe?
Yes.
Did you sleep through the night?
I typically get up to go to the bathroom, so that I could have gotten up possibly to go to the bathroom.
Did anything remarkable happen in the early morning hours of January 29, 2022 that changed that peaceful mood into something else?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to share with the jury the first thing that happens that changes everything.
At 4:53, my phone rings and I look at my caller ID. I look at the phone and it's Kaylee, John's niece. John's niece. And I say hello, and she said, yeah, well, basically she relayed to me that,
Next question.
When you pick up the phone, could you hear a voice on the other end?
I heard a voice and a lot of screaming.
And the voice you heard, is that Kaylee, John's niece?
Yes.
And the screaming, was it a man or a woman screaming?
It was a woman.
How loud was that person screaming?
Very loud.
Could you make out anything that person was saying as they were screaming?
Loud.
Could you make out anything that person was saying as they were screaming?
My name was screamed a lot. And then
Thank you for the follow.
the other individual ended up getting on the phone with me.
And who was that person that was screaming in the background?
Miss Reed.
How long was she screaming for while you were speaking to your niece before you spoke to her?
The entire time I was speaking to Kaylee, she was screaming.
Describe her demeanor.
Miss Reed's.
Yes.
Jen! Jen! And then she's screaming that John didn't come home. She left him at the waterfall. She was hysterical. It was very hard to follow what she was saying.
How long did that first call last for?
I'm not sure how long, maybe possibly a few minutes, but it was loud enough and long enough that my husband shot up in bed, thinking one of my kids had come in the room screaming.
Without saying what your niece said, could you describe your niece's demeanor when you first spoke to her? I mean, John's niece's demeanor.
I would say Kaylee sounded concerned, uneasy.
Okay. During that phone call, other than the screaming and the screaming of your name, did the defendant give you any information other than she had dropped John off at the waterfall?
They'd gotten into a fight. She had left him there and he didn't come home.
And when you were woken up, were you in a sleep when you were woken up?
Yes, I was sound asleep.
What was your mental state like when you first woke up and got that call?
Well, I had been up late. I had taken my medication that I take for my MS, so I was definitely a bit groggy when I first woke up. So immediately I just wanted to help her. She was hysterical. Kaylee was upset. So I went into that kind of mom mode of what can I do? How can I help? So I immediately was like thinking, okay, well, if you left him at the waterfall, let me think who was still there, or, you know, how can I help you? How can we find John?
Did you have a plan when you ended that first call?
I did. I knew Chris Albert had still been at the waterfall when I left. So I thought if Karen and John had gotten into a fight, maybe Chris had walked out of the bar and Chris lived local to the bar, thought maybe they walked back to Chris's together.
So what did you do?
So I called Chris Albert's wife, Julie.
Did you speak to her?
No, she never answered.
After you had a moment to make a phone call and think about things, did your head become any more clearer?
It did, and I was, reminded by my husband that we had seen Karen and John's car outside of Fairview.
When he reminded you, did you independently remember the text messages that you sent to John earlier that evening?
Immediately, I was like, oh my God, you're right.
Did you remember that you had seen what you believed to be the defendant's car in front of the house and near the flagpole?
Objection.
Watch the form.
Okay. What did you remember? What came to mind after you spoke to your husband about your memory from earlier that evening?
The minute he said it, I remember seeing the SUV and then all the text messages that I had and the phone conversation with John.
So after the defendant spoke to you and said she had left the defendant at the waterfall and you had time to think about your memories, did you react or do anything with that?
Yes, I believe I called Kaylee back.
Why did you call Kaylee?
I didn't have Miss Reed's phone number.
When you called Kaylee back, did you speak to anybody?
Yes, I believe Kaylee and then Miss Reed.
When you first spoke to Kaylee, could you hear anything other than Kaylee?
The screaming.
Was it any different, or was it similar to the first time you spoke by phone?
Similar to the first time.
Regarding the demeanor or intensity, had it changed at all?
Not at all.
You mentioned the first time that you had that phone call, the defendant was screaming your name. Jen,
Yes.
Jen, Jen. Was she saying your name in the second call, or was it just general screaming?
My name, and then when she got on the phone, I had told her, Karen, I saw you guys outside of my sister's house. And then she told me she didn't remember being there. And then she went on to say, she started saying, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? And then she just was just all over the place, like screaming my name, screaming so many different things. She was hard to follow or understand.
When she was saying to you, did I hit him? Could have I hit him? Was that before or after you informed her that you had seen her out front of your sister's house?
It was after I told her that. She also informed me that she had cracked her taillight.
In that conversation, she told you that?
In one of the conversations I had with her in my bedroom, yes.
When you told her that you had seen her out front, and she had said that she didn't remember that night, was that before or after she was saying, did I hit him? Could have I hit him?
Can you repeat the question?
So
Sorry.
she was telling you about that she didn't remember that night.
Mm-hmm.
Was that before or after you had told her about seeing her car?
When I said I saw her at Fairview, then her response was she didn't even remember going there.
Did she ever deny that she came to Mr. O'Keefe's house? I mean, to your sister's house?
No.
When she told you or said to you, did I hit him or could have I hit him or something like that, did you have any idea what she was talking about?
No, I didn't pay attention to it.
When she told you that she had cracked her taillight the night before, did that have any significance at that time to you?
No.
So in telling you these different things, did you ever piece them together at that time?
No.
What was your primary motivation at that point?
I just wanted to help her because she was hysterical. Kaylee was very upset, so I wanted to help her, and I wanted to find John.
So after she told you these things about whether she could or did hit her and the light and not remembering, did the conversation end or did it progress?
At some point, I was then going into like, okay, well, if she brought him there and left him there, where was he? Because he never came in the house, and she doesn't know where he is, so now where could he be? So I started thinking there was another gentleman that was supposed to meet us out at the bar who John was friends with. So I thought, okay, well, in my head, I'm thinking maybe they got into a fight. John got out of the car and he connected with this guy because he was at a party on the street.
What was that person's name?
His name is Tom Beatty.
Did you call him?
Yes.
Did you get a chance to speak to him that night?
That morning?
Yes.
No.
Did you call around anywhere else?
I believe I called my sister. I called John. I called Tom Beatty. I called his daughter.
You called John O'Keefe's phone?
Yes.
Did he answer?
No.
Did it go right to voicemail?
I don't remember.
Did you text anybody?
I honestly don't remember if I texted. I primarily think I was just trying to call as many people as I could and try to figure out what happened.
So you had two conversations at this point with the defendant while you were still home?
Yes.
Was there any further phone calls that you had before you did something?
I'm not sure if I know I went downstairs to make coffee because my plan was to go with my husband. I said, come on, let's just go over to Tom Beatty's. Let's see. Maybe John's there. He passed out on the couch. I'm not sure if Karen called me again or not. It's a little foggy because there was so many calls and everything.
And so that morning when you're receiving calls, did something happen?
Karen showed up at my house.
How did you know Karen showed up at your house?
I could hear her screaming out front.
And about what time is this?
Approximately 5:20, 5:30. I can't be sure.
Were you worried for John at this point?
Not particularly, no.
Were you screaming?
No.
Now at this point, at this moment when you hear her outside of your house yelling, early morning hours, did you know a person by the name of Kerry Roberts?
I knew of her. I'd met her once.
Were you friends with her at that time?
No.
Had you socialized with her at that time?
No.
Had you ever seen her before with John?
Once.
Tell me about that.
Years earlier, as I said earlier, I used to take Kaylee on Friday nights, and Kerry was the one who would take Patrick on Friday night. So we would each have the kids. And to thank us, one day John told us how he got a discount at Reebok and to get our kids' shoe sizes, and he was going to buy us all sneakers, just as a way to say thank you for helping. So we all went to the store together, and then John took Kerry and myself to the hillside for lunch.
How many years before this moment was that?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think that's when my daughter was in kindergarten or first grade, and at this point she was in 8th grade. So like 7 years.
Had you ever spent any other time with Kerry Roberts before this morning?
No.
Were you friends at that point?
No.
How would you consider your relationship with Miss Roberts on that morning when Miss Reed arrived to your home?
I had met her once, and that was the extent of it. I wouldn't say I knew her at all, beyond that one time I went out with her.
And why don't you take us back now to when you first hear the defendant in your driveway yelling? When you hear that, do you hear any words, or is it general yelling?
So I hear her yelling. So I was downstairs making coffee. I go to my front door and I open it, and she's screaming, Jen, Jen. She's screaming that 3 times, and then she was saying, we have to go to Fairview.
Is there something with the number 3 in that town? This is the third witness that testified to something happening in threes. Just wondering.
You know, a lot of the could I have hit him? Did I hit him? Just she was on repeat.
What did you do?
My husband came running down the hall and was like, tell her to shut up. She's going to wake up the neighbors. And then I said, I'm just going to go with her. I'm going to go look for John. And then he yelled down saying something like, you can't be driving around in this weather, you know, with a broken taillight.
When you saw the defendant at your front door, had the weather changed overnight?
Yes.
Was it different?
Yes, now the snow had intensified. It was almost like, it was dark outside, but it was like whiteout conditions.
How dark?
Dark, I mean, it was dark. It was like 5:30 in the morning.
What was the visibility like?
Not good.
After you meet the defendant at your door, do you let her in or does she stay outside?
I'm not sure if I just grabbed my coffee and ran out.
Where did you
Or
go?
whether she came in. So we went down my walkway. She was just kind of running all around. The driver's door was open, so I told her I was going to drive because I thought she was too hysterical to drive. In the meantime, all of a sudden there was a car at the end of my street and there was a plow behind it.
The car that came to the end of your street, do you know where it went?
I meant the end of my driveway, I'm sorry.
When you say at the end of your driveway, did it pull into your driveway?
No, it just kind of stopped right at the base of my driveway.
How far behind your car was that car?
Not
How
far,
are you?
because not too far.
Okay. Did you know who was in that car?
No.
Did you learn who was in that car?
Yes,
How did you learn who was in the car?
because I said, "Who is that?"
Did you ask the defendant or did you walk
I
up?
asked the defendant, and she told me it was Carrie Roberts.
Did you meet Carrie Roberts face to face in your driveway that morning?
Yes, I wouldn't say we met. It was more of a the plow was coming, so then she was having to like move down the street, and then either Karen called her or she called Karen, but they were on the phone, Karen's phone over the car, so they started talking.
Did you get into the defendant's car?
Yes, we did. I got in the car with Miss Reed.
When you got in the car, you were in the driver's seat. Was Miss Reed in the passenger front?
Yes,
You said there was an open call. Is this something you could hear on a speaker?
yes.
At that point, had you had a chance to go and look at the taillight of that car?
No,
Did you have any interest in the taillight at that point?
no.
There was an open call between who?
Karen and Carrie Roberts.
Can you describe what you heard in that call?
Karen was saying that she wanted to go to Fairview, and Carrie Roberts was instructing her that no, we weren't going to be going to Fairview, and she kept saying, we got to go to your sister's house, and Carrie Roberts said, no, we're not going to be driving around in this weather in 2 cars. Let's go back to John's. Let's go to Meadows. Let's go see if he's there. That was kind of the conversation. And then Karen was doing a lot of screaming, and Carrie was kind of yelling back at her to shut up.
Who was taking charge of the situation that morning?
Carrie Roberts.
Were you in charge of it?
No.
Did you weigh in or make any decisions on where you were going to go next, or were you just a listener?
I just listened. Carrie said that Carrie's kind of a take charge person. She said, we're going to Meadows. So I said, okay, I drove to Meadows.
Now, at this point, you didn't know Carrie Roberts
Thank
other
you.
than that meeting,
Yes, correct.
and you agreed to follow her?
Yes.
So tell us what happens. Take us through the drive.
She might have followed me. I'm not sure, but we drove back to Meadows, pulled into the driveway.
So you knew where Meadows was? You had been there many times for the kids?
Yes.
You think Miss Roberts may have followed you?
Yes.
What was the weather conditions as you were driving?
They were awful. It was, I was driving very slow, cautiously. It was dark. It was hard to see. It was that type where the snow is like coming at your window.
How long of a ride was it from your home to John's home?
Approximately 5-6 minutes.
Was there any other phone calls while you were in the car with Miss Roberts, or did the phone calls end?
I believe that was it.
Can you describe the defendant's demeanor on the trip from your house to John's house?
She was just screaming, yelling things. It was almost like everything she said 3 times. And she just went from one thing to the next. She was quite hysterical.
Do you remember what she was yelling about?
About going to Fairview, asking, could she have hit him? Did I hit him?
How many times did she raise the question, did I hit him? Could have I hit him?
A good amount.
Did you ever speak to her about that?
No.
At some point, did you finally get to John's home?
Yes,
When you got to John's home, who pulled in the driveway first?
I did.
Where did you pull in respect to the driveway?
I just pulled straight in next to the garage.
Did you see where Miss Roberts went?
I believe she pulled in behind me.
After you pulled into Meadows, John's home, and you stopped, what happened next?
We go into John's house.
When you went into John's house, did you all go in the same way?
Yes, we went through the garage.
And before going into John's home, did you do anything?
Before entering into the house?
Yes.
I took off my shoes.
You took off your shoes?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
Because you always had to take your shoes off at John's. He didn't want you to track. He would have yelled at me for tracking snow in his house.
Did you see if Kerry took her shoes off or not?
I believe she did.
Did you see whether the defendant took her shoes off or not?
She just walked right in.
How would you remember that?
Because I thought it was strange.
What was your purpose when you went into the house? What was the number one thing that you were worried about?
We were looking for John.
Anything else on your mind when you went into his house?
Also, I knew Kaylee was there.
Is anyone else able to pick up the sound like someone's sleeping that's right by the camera?
Now, at this point, did you have a close relationship with Kaylee?
Yes.
Do you still?
Yes.
What did you do when you went in the house? Where did you go?
I walked through the kitchen and then I kind of peeked into the TV room. I walked through the dining room, and then before I went up the stairs, I kind of peeked into a living room. I went up to the top of the stairs. I peeked into John's room, and then I went into Kaylee's room.
Did you ever see John?
No.
Why did you go to Kaylee's room?
Because I wanted to go check on Kaylee.
Did you have a chance to speak to her?
I did, yes.
What was her demeanor at that point?
She was very, she was in the bed. She was holding on to her phone. She was terrified. She was holding on to her phone. She was terrified.
Was she screaming?
No.
Did you provide her any comfort?
Yes. I told her that I was gonna go out. I told Kaylee that I was gonna go out with them and I was gonna find John. And I promised her that everything would be okay.
At some point you left Kaylee?
Yes.
Where did you go?
I went back downstairs and then we went out to look for John.
Before you left John's house that morning, did the defendant show you anything?
Yes. When we were out in the driveway, I had thought it was when we went in, but I think it might have been when we came out. But regardless, at one point when we were in the driveway at Meadows, Karen showed myself and Kerry Roberts the cracked taillight.
Did you or Miss Roberts get close to the taillight at that point?
Yes, we walked over and the taillight was missing pieces.
Did Miss Roberts have any comment about it?
Yes, Miss Roberts.
So she had a comment. Next question.
What was Miss Roberts' demeanor at that point?
She was frustrated with Karen. Had said that had said that Karen basically was telling her to shut up. You were so drunk, you could have hit anything last night. And then Kerry, I remember just thinking, all right, let's go. And I remember Carrie thinking, oh,
Well,
someone's
let me
going
not
to
ask
get.
you what Carrie-
Sorry.
We don't want to think what somebody thought.
Okay.
I want to know what you heard and what you saw.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. At some point when you were looking at the taillight with missing pieces with the defendant and Miss Roberts, did you see Miss Roberts point anything out?
Yes.
Share that with us.
She pointed a piece that was sticking out and was concerned that someone was going to catch their coat or something on it.
And during that time when the defendant is showing you the taillight with missing pieces, was she saying anything about it?
No, I don't. Not that I can recall right now.
You mentioned at some point she was saying, could I have hit him after you left John's house? Was that in the car or before you got in the car?
I know for a fact it was definitely in the car. Was one of the times, yes.
Is it?
Now, Miss Roberts' car is parked behind the defendant's car in John's driveway.
Yes.
Was there a decision made to take one or two cars?
One car.
What was the plan?
The plan was to get into Carrie's car and to go and look for John. I wanted to go thinking, let's go to Tom Beatty's, but Miss Reed was pretty adamant that we go to Fairview first.
You said that at times there was some arguing or bickering, or Miss Roberts was raising her voice to the defendant?
Yes.
Who made the decision to go to Fairview?
Ultimately, Carrie said, all right, we'll go there, almost like to shut her up.
When you got in the car, where was everybody? When you got into Carrie Roberts' car, where was everybody sitting?
Carrie was driving. I was in the front and passenger. Karen was in the back, in the middle, kind of peeking her head through between us.
I want you to take us through the ride from John's house at Meadows until you first get to Fairview. So as you pull out of, or Carrie Roberts pulls out of John's driveway, what is the mood inside that car?
I'd say it was starting to get tense because Karen was just continuously screaming. Carrie was trying to focus on driving, and Karen's behavior in the back of the car was a bit erratic.
When you say erratic, can you just give some detail what you mean by that?
Yes, she would go from sitting back to leaning up in between us, and she would yell Carrie's name 3 times. Then she would yell my name's three times. And then she would yell, could I hit him? Did I hit him? Over and over again.
When she was repeating these questions or phrases that she was yelling, did you respond in any way?
I don't believe I did, no.
How about Carrie?
Carrie was telling her to shut up and to buckle up.
Was she buckled?
Right down to that's
I
what
don't
I
believe
said.
so.
You began your drive from Mr. O'Keefe's home at Meadows to Fairview. Is the weather getting better?
No, it's getting worse.
Is the visibility still difficult?
It was terrible.
As you began that drive to Fairview, was there anything that you were doing on the way?
Yes, I was just kind of looking out the window intently to see if I saw anything.
What were you looking for?
I guess John, which I know it sounds crazy, but I didn't know where the hell he was.
Did you have any difficulty seeing from the car the side of the road?
Yes.
Did you see what direction Miss Roberts was looking when she was driving?
Well, she, it was hard because she needed to focus on driving because the conditions were that bad.
Did you have a chance to see the defendant on that drive at all?
Yes.
Was she looking out the windows with you?
No, she was popping back and forth and screaming.
Was it constant screaming or did it change at all?
She would scream and then kind of sit back and she'd almost be like quiet for a minute. It was like, okay, good. And then she'd start again.
In those quiet times, do you know what, if anything, she was doing?
I didn't know what she was doing that morning, no.
How long did it take to get to Fairview?
I don't know. I'm going to assume maybe 10 minutes, like with the weather, maybe 10 minutes. I'm not, give or take approximately.
As you're approaching 34 Fairview Road, before you get there, Is Fairview going to be on your left side, driver's side, or on the right side?
As we're pulling up, it's on the driver's side. Carrie's going to take a left down Fairview off of Chapman.
I want you to take us back to that morning, about 20 or 30 yards before you get to Fairview.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the car with Miss Roberts and the defendant?
Yes.
What's happening in the car?
Karen's is screaming, and at that point she had asked if John could be cheating on her and if John could be with Bella's mom.
And then what happens?
I didn't know what the hell she was talking about. I was like, what are you talking about? Why would he be with Bella's mom? And then Carrie said, well, do you think he could have walked to, there was another woman years before that John had dated who lived on the next street over to her house.
And as you approach that area
We don't
before you
know.
get to the flagpole, does anything remarkable happen?
No.
Okay. What happens next?
As we're driving down the street, I just say to Carrie, because she doesn't know where my sister lives, oh, her house is just at the bottom of the street.
Visibility still difficult?
Yes, awful.
What happens next?
We continue, driving, and we we're driving slowly past, the line of, I guess, bushes and the flagpole area. And all of a sudden, Karen's screaming from the back, there he is, or something to the effect of, there he is, let me out.
Did you know what she was talking about?
I had no idea.
When she was yelling that, did you look out the window?
Yeah, we had our eyes peeled out the window.
Did you see anything?
Nothing but snow.
How long was she yelling about whatever it is she was saying?
Carrie, she screamed, stop. So Carrie stopped pretty quickly. There he is. She could have kicked the door, like, let me out of here.
And when she was kicking the door, what were you doing?
I was just like, what the heck? What is going on?
What happens next?
She gets out. Carrie looks at me and said something. I said, like, she's batshit crazy.
Then what happens?
Then Carrie got out. Then I got out of the car, walked around the back of the car, and was walking, like, over to where I could see the girls were.
Now, at that point, you were in Kerry Roberts' car.
Yes.
It had its headlights on.
Yes.
Was it facing up the street of Fairview?
Well, we had come down the hill, so yes, up the street.
There was no other lighting in that area?
I do not believe so.
No fire engines or ambulances at that point?
No.
No police cars?
No.
Any street lights?
It was dark.
When you got out of the car, did you look towards the area of the flagpole?
Yes.
Could you see anything at that point?
No.
How close did you get to the area of the flagpole before you could first actually see something?
Well, I saw the shadowy figures of Carrie and Karen, and it wasn't until I got very close over to them that I saw Carrie removing the snow from John's
I don't
face.
think they'll do the cross tonight, though.
Is that
from John's
I don't
face?
think they'll do the cross tonight, though.
Is that the first moment you realized that that was John, the thief on the ground?
Yes, it was.
When you see Carrie removing the snow from John's face, what do you do?
I was frozen. I was shocked. I couldn't believe that was him just lying there.
Tell us what you're seeing.
What do I see? I see Carrie just wiping the snow off. Karen had straddled him and had lifted her shirt and his shirt and was laying on him, and Carrie was screaming at her to get off of him. And
she's trying to keep him warm.
I was literally just stunned. I mean, there he was.
What did John look like when you saw him?
I couldn't see much but his face, because the rest I could was snow, and Karen was moving over him, but he just looked like just him, but just like frozen.
What did you do?
At first, I just stood there for a minute because I couldn't believe it was him. And then Carrie Roberts and I made eye contact. And I knew, I was like, all right, I'm going to call 911. But I think I knew in that moment that John, was dead.
Did you call 911?
Yeah, I started to call 911 and Kerry and Karen were just screaming. And so I walked back towards Kerry's car, and then Kerry was also yelling at me to go to the back of the car to look for blankets and towels. So as I was calling 911, I was at the back of the car looking for the towels and the blankets to bring over to Kerry. And while I was doing that, I believe 911 answered.
Did you speak to 911?
I did, yes.
Did you get the towels and blankets that Kerry had requested?
I did, yes.
After your phone
Did that moment remind anybody of anything? Any other time in a courtroom? Anytime at all?
call with 911 and you had the towels and blankets, tell us what happens next.
So after I called 911, I went back over to Kerry, Karen, and John. And at that point, Kerry asked if I would take over compressions.
My dog
So she got up and I started doing compressions, and Karen was doing mouth to mouth.
When you started doing compressions, were you touching John over his clothes or touching his skin?
I don't remember.
Did you at that point get a chance to touch John's body and see how it felt temperature-wise?
I just remember when I was doing the compressions, I don't really know how to explain it. It just felt very funny.
I'm sorry, very
It just wasn't like normal. I don't.
She reminds me of Amber Heard.
I can't think of how to describe the way it felt when I was trying to press down, but it was like resistance.
How long did you try to give compressions and give aid to John for?
Until the police came.
Mr. Brennan, why don't we end here?
Thank you.
Mr. Brennan, we need you back tomorrow. You can stay.
And that's it, folks. That's a wrap. It reminded me of the time where Amber Heard said, "My dog stepped on a bee." I know you can't see him, but that's why I haven't been able to move. He's trying to fall asleep. There's more? Okay.
Jurors, that's it for today. I have to give you those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. And again, please be very careful with your social media. All right, we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Goodbye.
Are you sure there's more? Because the computer just told us goodbye. I'll wait for a couple minutes.
Can we close the doors, please?
May be seated.
So I know it's shifting gears, but I want to address, I said I'd hear you today on the argument on the Arkham motion. Mr. Brennan, do you need a minute or can you argue that?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I was looking at my notebook. What issue would you like to address?
Your motion yesterday. We had the motion and I told you that I would hear you on argument, and it's very brief. 10 minutes, please.
Your Honor, before we begin, my client needs to use the restroom.
Oh, I didn't notice she wasn't here.
Yes,
Okay,
you just have 5 minutes, she'll be right back.
sure. All right,
Thank
5 minutes.
All right, please.
win a lot. In the past,
Nope. It's okay, Binks. Hi, Charlie. How are you? It really, really is. It's like a literal movie again. Thank you. Whew. Binks has me wore out. This is crazy. I know. Well, I get why Jens didn't. I take it he was home with the kids, but again, what age were they? I don't really know. That's one thing I don't understand. Excuse me. And then the other thing is that no one even came out of the house. Not even when first responders came, where John was found. Outside of the Alberts house. They didn't even come out. If Karen Reed was irate and screaming and upset, wouldn't they have woken up and come out? Did the ambulances not do it? That's what I don't understand. Ow.
Of this case. And hearing yesterday is that Dr. Wolf admittedly destroyed over 100 text messages. Now, he mentioned that he changed phone carriers, but then later admitted that he actually intentionally, for no apparent reason, destroyed the text messages in this case. And so what is left for your honor to look at is a summary of phone records from the defense and Archer's information that is passed through the defense to the court. You do not have the text messages. You do not have the content of the text messages. There is no summary of the conversations. Dozens and dozens of calls between the defense and the experts. It is difficult to believe that all of those text messages and all of those phone conversations dealt with simply logistics. In fact, we later learned during the questioning of Dr. Rensselaer, there is much more involved than simply logistics. But to get back to Dr. Wolf, he did not disclose to the court that he was communicating and having conversations on Signal. How odd. An expert using Signal. Never used it before. Dr. Rensselaer said, would not use Signal, never use Signal. But Signal, as we know, is an application that does not create a record of communications. Dr. Wolf maintained on his direct that everything he did was logistics, even when we showed him the direct examinations with comments that asked for input from the defense to questions in a way that would be advantageous to the defense and to thwart the Commonwealth. Dr. Wolf actually still continued to testify that that was simply procedure and logistics, never admitting the fact that there was, in fact, conversations or information exchange about bettering the presentation for the defense. Inevitably, I asked him about the sequestration order and how evasive he was. You simply have to compare him to Dr. Rensselaer, who was quite candid. An hour or 45 minutes with Dr. Wolf, difficult getting a straight answer. Dr. Rensselaer told us more in 5 minutes than Dr. Wolf told us his entire examination. And what we unfortunately learned is that during the trial, when this court had a sequestration order, information was being passed to the experts about witness testimony, in this case, unknown to the Commonwealth, unknown to the court, information, particular information, not general information, witness testimony, issues in the case. We have no idea who is deciding or identifying the issues and who the advantage is given to in describing those issues. But that is witnesses being prepped through an intermediary. So we know the Department of Justice, at least, is violating the order, helping the witnesses along, and then they testify unbeknownst to the Commonwealth that they have this information, but obviously is reflected in the testimony. In addition, I provided some clips to Your Honor for review.
Yes, do you want me to mark these as an exhibit?
I do.
Okay, so this was an exhibit from yesterday.
That's right, it was from the DOJ.
I did have the opportunity to look at them.
I suggest that the relationship was not resigned to mere logistics. And so, from that subterfuge, what we stand with today is that we know that the witnesses were well prepared. We know that there was not true independence. And what we know is that they are refusing to provide the necessary information to support their original opinions that they gave at the first trial. They cited that it was a protective order. Perhaps it is. That has nothing to do with the issue. By calling the ARCA witnesses as their witnesses, they then have the obligation to comply with Rule 14. Unlike the first trial, where the Commonwealth had no ability to do any testing, review, vet the reliability of the information, properly prepare for cross-examination, this trial, that should not occur. Just because it happened last trial and the Commonwealth was disadvantaged does not mean it should happen this trial. And that is precisely why I began moving for discovery in this case early on. Inevitably, if these witnesses cannot provide information because it's under a protective order, it may not be the defendant's fault in its inception, but it is their problem and difficulty because they chose to hire the ARCA witnesses. They could have chosen any witnesses they want.
So could you have.
Rule 14 is not obviated because they made a strategic decision to call the ARCA witnesses. So now going into this trial, even Dr. Rentschler admitted that an expert should have time, in their opinion, a month or more, to review the raw materials. It's not enough simply to have a report, as Attorney Alisi preached during his argument. We should have the opportunity to go through the raw data, the history, the videos, determine whether there's any failed testing. We don't have that benefit. And so my position has changed, that those early opinions should not come in because we have no ability to fairly cross-examine. As for the new opinions, the report may not be done until May 7th. We are in the middle of trial. Concedingly by the defense, or at least their witnesses, it takes a month to go through the discovery. When I filed my motion on the eve of trial that we would be unable to prepare or we would want a continuance in this case, I appreciate why this case wasn't continued. But I knew, given our scheduling, our experts will not be able to look at this material. Our expert is away until after the first week of May. He is going to be testifying shortly after. He will have no ability to digest this enormous amount of materials, vet whether it's accurate or not, conduct tests to combat it if he thinks it is inaccurate or unfair. And so the discovery violations, regardless of the state of mind, are upon the defendant. There is no exception that you used ARCA witnesses. There is no exception that you hired somebody that used to be under a federal protective order. They chose them, and I would suggest it seems strategically. When we noticed we'd have new experts in October, the defense from past experience, and probably other experience, but we know from this case, knows the process. They would have to file a TUI letter and wait for a response. And yet they waited until February to seek permission, which then extended their permission past February into March, and then they didn't even start the review until late March.
Danielle.
And so it's fundamentally unfair. We should not be placed in the position of cross-examining experts without the fair ability as any participant, defendant, Commonwealth, any participant would have in a case to consider and then to rebut. And so for that reason, I ask you to exclude both the new opinions and new testing, and also to exclude the earlier opinions that we will never, at this point, receive the proper discovery with to prepare.
All right, thank you. Mr. Alessi, I only have one question for you. So would you stand, please? You're arguing this, right? This was your motion. So my question is, how do I reconcile the fact that 100 text messages were deleted by counsel? And we heard yesterday counsel's preferred method of dealing with Dr. Wolf was via Signal. How do we reconcile that with the Massachusetts Rules of Professional Conduct 1.15? I don't see how you reconcile that, where all correspondence related to the matter, whether in physical or electronic form, must be saved for 10 years minimum. How do you reconcile that? How do I reconcile that?
Should I go to the podium?
Right there, and I expect a short answer.
The short answer, Your Honor, is the rule that you're citing has absolutely no applicability to this proceeding for the, can I finish my answer, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
Has no applicability. That rule is intended to be between an attorney and the client. The court has no jurisdiction to enforce that rule.
I agree. That's a different body, but I'm asking you how I reconcile that when I'm trying to figure this out. Mr. Lessie, you know what? You're going to win this, so why don't you just let me make my ruling, okay? So I understand there have been repeated violations of the reciprocal discovery orders and my orders, repeated and deliberate. But, and Mr. Brennan, I understand completely the Commonwealth's argument, completely the ambush that has been set upon here. However, a defendant's right to a fair trial is paramount to everything. So I'm going to allow the ARCA witnesses to testify. I am going to allow what I expect to be a very robust cross-examination. And I'm going to allow them to testify to everything that they said up until yesterday. So you'll get the report May 7th. And I know that's late. And if you need anything as a result of that being late, I'll hear you on whatever motion you have. But that's where we stand. And I expect counsel to comply with all rulings and rules of the court and all rules of professional conduct, and no more nonsense. Let's just try this case. All right, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, the court, please.
Seems like she might have had enough too. Maybe, I don't know. My whole thing is she already knew what she was going to rule, but she wanted to make it a point on how she felt. What was the purpose of that? I wasn't either. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to go lay down with my kitty and go check on my husband. I hope you guys have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow at 12
Hey
Central.
there, Karen Reed trial watchers. You know what a lot of the trials
Thank you
we cover
guys so
right now-
much. Good night.